The brochure is now finished, the client's happy, but is it ready for print? If you look very closely, you'll see several errors that we need to fix before we send it off to the printers. And I'm going to take you through these step by step. This will include checking bleed settings, making sure the fonts are correct, no Pantone colours involved that aren't needed, and also setting up a pre-flight. And I'm going to take you through these step by step. Let's jump into the first error. I would suggest you watch the video of how I created this brochure from start to finish, the complete workflow. I'll put a link above and then come back to this video and watch this one. Here we have the finished brochure. The first check I like to do is check the printer specs are correct and it's been set up correctly. So we'll go over to preview where I've got the specs from the printer. I've only built the inside of this, so let's just go through what the size should be. It should be 210 height and then 100, 197. So once we've checked the printer specs, we can check the document setup to make sure the document we're using is set up correctly. Check on the page size. We've got 100 by 297, that's correct. But we need to check the master pages. We've got two sizes here, so parent A, which is that one, we can click this little tool here, and that's 297 by 100. And we can click that one there, and that's 97 by 297. So we know we've got the right pages, AAB, in the right places. Next, you need to check your bleed setup. So I know that the printer requested 3mm bleed, so I'm going to hit Option Command P on a Mac, and I'm going to go down to bleed and slug, and I've got 3mm bleed set up in my document, and I'll OK that. And I also know this is going to be printed CMYK only, so we don't want any spot colours or any RGB colours as it won't reproduce properly. And if we have low resolution images as well, we'll get blurry images when we print it. The next check I perform is a visual check, and this is before I run the pre-flight profile. So I'm going to go into preview mode, which is W on the keyboard. And as you're looking at the screen, you can see everything looks correct, but we've got to look out for missing bleed, missing links, overset text, etc. And then, like I said, we'll run the pre-flight profile after that. So I'm going to hit W again, which will go back into working mode. And as you can see here, we've got like the red line depicts bleed. This is a frame of an image. And then this black line here is the actual trim. So you can see here, we've got missing bleed here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the background, go onto the layer. Because this is on a master page, I've got to go to the master pages, and then I'll pull that up, go back to them, and you can see now it's actually going to the top. And also it needs to be done at the bottom. So we'll go on there and we'll put it down at the bottom. Parent B as well, that needs to be changed. But what's happened here is it's been edited on the actual working page rather than the master page, so I could just put it down from there. So now you can see, if I zoom out, that we've got bleed all the way around. And you can see here obviously as well, the images are falling short, so we can just pull those out as well. This one here you can see hasn't got enough image on it, so best practice then would be to enlarge this or retouch it. As it's not critical what position it goes, we can just enlarge it. Then I'm going to save the document, so that's Control S or Command S on a PC. So more visual checks you can look for is the text. Make sure you haven't got any text boxes that aren't displaying all the copy. So you want to look out for a little plus sign, and if you look closely here, you can see there's a little plus, and that means there's overset text on here. So I'll zoom out again and just pull that down, and there you can see the text is now displaying correctly. There's quite a few checks you can actually look at first visually before you run the pre-flight test. We can see here we've got a little question mark for this image here, so that will mean that image is missing. So if we go to a links panel, which I've got over here, or you can get that under window and then go down to links, you can see there's a question mark over that image, which means it's missing. So what I can do there, I can just relink that. It's been moved into another folder, so the link has been broken, so I can just OK that, and then it jumps in, and there's now no missing links in the panel. The next thing we can do is look at our separation. So we're printing CMYK, so we shouldn't see any other plates apart from cyan, magenta, yellow and black. So what we can do is go under Window, go to Output, Separation Preview, and you get this little panel comes up here. It defaults to off, so if I turn it into separations, you can see I've got CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and you can also see I've got a spot color, which we don't want. So I can hit the little eye here, and that shows me where that is. This is a great way of checking overprint as well, because you can toggle off the black, which should always overprint, and you can see it's not knocked out of the background, it's actually overprinting. So once again, we could toggle that off and we can see that that word design is being set up as a spot color. This is when I was testing with the client and I've obviously forgotten to change it back to CMYK. We can go over to the swatches and we can change it to the correct color. Turn the separation preview off, turn it back on, turn that off, and you can see nothing changes. Another good test to do is to turn all the CMYK off and then just leave the spot color on. It will show it here because it's in the document, but you can see it's not actually on the document, so nothing has been set up as that color. So we can turn that off now. If you leave it on, it will make the document run a bit slower, so I always turn it off. Once again, we'll then save, so it'll be Control on a PC or Command on a Mac S. So now we're on the Preflight profile. So we'll come down to here, we'll go Preflight panel, which will bring up this box here. I've got one set up called Print Brochure Check, which I've set up with the correct bleed and everything for this printer when I deal with brochures. I'm not going to go through the complete setup because I've got a link in the description for a dedicated video and also put it at the top of the video here. So I'm going to switch that on and it's going to go through and scan the document, and you can see it's found a few errors, so we can release those. It's flagging this one here. If you click on it, it will tell you the error down here in the info. So we've got an RGB color, which we can't have obviously for print. We've got the same image has bad resolution, so it's only 155 ppi where we need 300. So what we can do, we'll deal with that issue first. So we can click on there and it will take you to the image, so it's that image there. And we can then go to the links panel, so living room, and you can go down here as well and you can see the effective PPI is only 155 and it's RGB color space, so we can reconnect that one. Living room 4K is the image we want. We can OK that, and you can see that's now jumped out the error messages because that's OK. And now we can move down to the next errors, so we can click on that one, take us to where it is, and it's saying that the image is too close to the trim. In this case we don't actually need any bleed because it's a transparent background, so we can pull this into the work and you can see it disappears. We can then save it again. Now we can go to the next error, so we can click on here and it's this background here which hasn't got bleed. So if we look, we've not got bleed at the top. Even though you've got the image on top of it, it still requires bleed for the pre-flight. And now you can see that everything in the pre-flight error panel is empty. So we've checked it, we've corrected everything, and we're good to go. So we can Control or Command S to save that and get rid of the pre-flight panel. So you're now ready to export your PDF. Command or Control E, depending on what operating system you're working on. Select your folder and then go to your export settings. I've got a dedicated video on how to set up PDF export settings, so I'm not going to go through this in detail. The only thing I want to make sure I do is click on spreads and make sure I've got crop marks and bleed marks and registration and bleed, use document bleed settings. So this now will give me trim marks and it will also give me the bleed, so I can export that. I would then save that as a preset, but if you check out the video in the description, it will show you how to do this. I'll then go to my desktop where I've saved the PDF. I'll double click on that to open it up. Just zoom out slightly. So now you can see I've got my trim marks, I've got bleed marks, and I've got my cut marks for where the actual folds are. You can also do this in Acrobat, but if you haven't got Acrobat, I thought I'd show you how to do this using Preview, which is built into the Mac. There's also an equivalent for Windows, and that's it. You've always got to make sure when you finish your design, you check it so it's to the printer specs and there's no low resolution images, RGB colors, spot colors, or anything else that isn't required for the print job. Now we can safely send this off for the printer and they'll be able to print the PDF. Some printers also require packaged files. If you'd like me to make a tutorial on how to produce packaged files from an InDesign file, let me know down in the comments. Now you've got a repeatable system you can use every time you finish a brochure or a poster or anything else, and then you can save the pre-flight and you can use this every time you need to. Just be aware you need to make sure that you save it and then you can change it to the printer's specifications, because it depends on the printer you use. If you're not using the same one every time, this will change. The few minutes you spend putting this right before you send the files off to the printer will save you a lot of headaches, because you won't have a happy customer if nothing's wrong, like the resolution's not great on your images, you've got wrong colours used, and you've got bleed missing, so you get a white line down the edge of your file. If you like my one-page InDesign checklist, click down below in the description where you can download this for free, and also there's a companion guide which accompanies this video which you can also download for free in the description. If this video has helped, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more practical tips and workflows using Adobe software. And next you want to be watching this video here. It walks through how I built the brochure from scratch. Thanks, and like always, keep creating.